story is told of the Hasidic master, Rabbi Avraham of Sochachov. It's a city in Poland, one of the great Hasidic masters, one of the great Talmudic geniuses. And he was visiting a town, and there were two possible places that he could stay. He was invited to these two different places. One of the places was owned by a very wealthy man who was not known for his morals. He was a little bit rusty, let's put it that way. And the other one was a very moral person, but didn't have the same level of scholarship and the same level of morality as the other one. So everyone expected that the rabbi would rather stay with the wealthy man who was very, very moral, and not with the other person who didn't have anything special about him. He wasn't known as a moral person. But the rabbi, to everyone's surprise, chose to stay at the house of the simple Jew who was not known for his morals, and ignored the wealthy Jew who was known to be a scholar and a very moral person. So when they asked him, why did you do that? Why did you choose the other person who was not so moral? So he quoted a verse in this week's Torah portion where it talks about God who dwells with them within their impurity. In other words, even when we are impure, even when we are lacking in our morality, God doesn't abandon us. Obviously, it puts a strain on our relationship and we have to change and become moral, but God doesn't say, you're not someone in whose home I find it to be uncomfortable. However, when someone is arrogant, and this rich person, because of his wealth and his knowledge and his piety, was a very arrogant person, full of ego, God says, as it's quoted in the Talmud, I and him could not dwell together. It's either me or him. They tell the story, someone came to the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement, and he said that when I walk into the synagogue, everyone steps on me. And the Baal Shem Tov, although I heard another version, it was another great Hasidic master, said, you spread yourself out throughout the entire synagogue, people have no room to step without you being there. Don't spread yourself out so much. When someone is full of himself, God says, there's no room for me. You take up all the space. So therefore, Rabbi Avraham Sochachov said, if God feels uncomfortable in that place, while he does feel comfortable dwelling in a place where there's lacking in morals, why should I be any different from God? The Midrash tells us that Mashiach, when he stands on the roof of the Holy Temple and announces the time of your redemption has arrived, he addresses the Jewish people as anavim, humble ones. Why does he focus on humility? He could have said righteous ones, wise ones. He's talking to us and he's saying humble ones. Number one, the Jewish people, after all these centuries and millennia of persecution, we have been very humbled. But number two, humility is the ultimate trait that enables us to be receptive to God. God can dwell in us, within us, and that's what redemption is all about, where God says, I can come back and dwell in your midst because you enjoy this humility. And even though some of the humility was not something that we worked on ourselves, we were humbled by life's experiences, by the suffering and the pain that we've endured, nevertheless, we become receptive to God's presence, and that's a prelude to the redemption.